Hey everybody, Enra Silver here. I think of all the exotic planets, the fissured are my favorite, especially at night. They have striking scenery and just a relaxing feel to them. I like building little safe houses on the ones I find. Nothing fancy, just a teleporter, some places to sit and relax. But I digress. I want to welcome you to episode 1 of the build journal for my Resurgence of Hope base build. This build was done as an entry for the Be Challenged event held in the Beeble Quadrant. There were a ton of phenomenal bases submitted for the competition, and I have links to all of them in the description. You should go check them out. Definitely be time well spent. The challenge was held to commemorate the 60th anniversary of Yuri Gagarin aboard the Vostok 1 being the first human being to cross into outer space. And as such, all builds had to be space or sci-fi related. I figured, why not build some booster rockets, putting a shuttle into space? Now all the builds had to be done in the same system. I found a planet with capillary shells and large craters all over the surface. When I stumbled across a crater with a cave entrance in the bottom of it, I knew immediately this was my build site. I ran floor panels across the crater to find the center of it, and then started to assemble my main booster rocket. I started with a circle made up of triangles, and then used light panel to light box adjacency to get 2 light boxes off the outer edge, and then raised them all by 1 box. I then used adjacency from doorway to door frame to center a frame on each triangle, and since I'd moved the 2 previous light boxes out of the way, I was now able to adjacency in a 3rd light box. Now I wanted 3 light boxes because I had decided to make my booster out of adornment cylinders. I knew I wasn't going to be the only person with a build like this, so I wanted to stand out a bit. I figured most builders would be using some sort of panel or wall to make up their rockets, so I decided to go with cylinders. With only 2 light boxes, the cylinders still touched, but just barely, and the end result resembled a cogwheel more than it did a circle. Adding in the 3rd cylinder made all the difference. Once I had all the light boxes set, I deleted the triangles and doors and then ran each light box inward 3 more boxes. 4 boxes would have led to collision, and so this was the tightest I could make the circle. Then I used total wire control to center a connection point on top of each one of the light cubes in the inner row. Then I started stacking up light boxes, centering connection points every 2 rows. 2 boxes gave a bit of overlap, but 3 boxes gave me a bit of a gap, and overlap is preferable to gap in this specific situation. Once I had all the boxes stacked up, I was now able to delete all of them, leaving behind just the wires. And now it's time to start glitching in the cylinders. I played around with coloring and texture for quite a while before I finally settled on orange with a wood texture. I think it looks pretty realistic, but let me know what you think in the comments. So there we have the complete body of the main booster rocket. Now it's time to put on its hat. Now to do this, I adjacency'd to a paver on top of one of the cylinders. While I could have snapped a panel here that would have been right on top of the cylinders, I actually needed a panel that was slightly above the cylinders. So I snapped 2 more pavers on the first, and then a floor panel onto the top paver, and then 2 short walls on the opposite side of the floor. I then snapped a floor panel on the bottom of the 2 short walls. This resulted in a floor panel that was raised slightly above the top of the cylinders. I'll go over why this was needed shortly. On this new floor, I snap a wall and then 2 short walls, and then another floor. Then I snap 2 more walls, and then finally a 3rd floor. I then center a wire in the middle of this 3rd floor, and then adjacency from a square room to a biodome on the middle floor. Now I wish I could say that all this spacing was the result of a carefully calculated mathematical build plan, but honestly, here's a couple spots where I played around with spacing and look until I figured out what was needed. Trial and error building, folks. That's my milieu. Once the biodome's in place, I adjacency glitch 8 planners into the dome, then run wires from the point above the dome down to the inner connector on each one of the planners, making sure that I always pull the wire from the top down to the planter.
Then I delete the biodome and replace the floor it was glitched onto with a centered wire to hold that spot. A bit of foresight that saves me some time here shortly. I then glitch a light box onto the end of one of the wires, drop it down by one box, and then run it down to the top of the cylinders, and then up to the top connection point. Here you can see the reason for that extra couple inches of elevation on that floor panel. It gives me a little bit of extra room to work in here. I then center connection points on every other light box all the way up, stopping 3 boxes short of the top. Trial and error spacing again, folks. I then delete all the white light boxes on the first wire, and glitch new light boxes on the end of each of the other wires, and then delete all the original wires. I then repeat the previous process, wire by wire. Here we have all 8 segmented wires placed. Now it's time to start glitching single pane pavers from the foundations menu onto each connection point. I'm going to stick with the orange color with wood texture motif as well. This whole build has connection points everywhere, so I always had to be very careful I was glitching onto the point I wanted to. Now once I start glitching in the second wire, my problem becomes obvious quickly. I got the spacing right for the top of the rocket, but hadn't considered the effect of extending it down. The wires separate the further they extend, and now the bottom half had gaps in between each paver. Shit. So now I've got to fix my problem. I got to delete the pavers, and thanks to me saving the center point, I can glitch the biodome back into place and glitch 8 more planners into the opposite spots from last time. After I run wires to them and delete the biodome, I glitch light boxes onto the end of the wires, but I only have to run them down to the cylinders, not up to the top, since that hasn't any gaps. I then again center connection points on every other light box, and then finally it's time to start glitching in pavers.
Now, as I glitch in the last of these pavers, let's talk about my plans for the top of the rocket. Now, you might have noticed a couple level horizontal wires at the very top. Now, my plan was to glitch a pyramid adornment merged with a pavers and sticking out as the tip. And I made 2 different elevations just in case. But of course, I tried the top one, and it's obviously still too low, so I've got to make another wire still higher. I raise it up 1 more light box and decide to give that a shot. Get the pyramid glitched on there, and would you look at that merge? Looks pretty damn good, not gonna lie. Now it's time for me to build the secondary booster rockets. I get myself centered on one of the sides and run frontages up from the ground until they're level with the bottom of the main booster rocket. Then I snap a floor inward on the frontage and adjacency to a small floor on the other side. I figure since the main booster was made from a circle of triangles, I'd make the secondary booster from a circle of small triangles. I then adjacencied to a light box on the outside edge of each triangle, and deleted the triangles, then ran each light box inward by 3 more boxes, finally centering a connection point on the innermost light box to glitch cylinders onto. Again, I spent quite a while playing with colors and textures and ended up settling on white with a wood texture. I glitched the first level in just to make sure it has a good merge with the body of the main booster, and it does. So I delete the cylinders and start building up a tower of light boxes like I did for my main booster. Now the light boxes are all deleted. All that's left is the wire scaffolding. It's time to start glitching in some cylinders. Now we're done with the body of the secondary booster. It's time to put its hat on. I place a wire so its connection point is in the middle of the booster and glitch a paver onto it. Orientation doesn't matter, its only purpose is as a surface to place a pyramid on. I then use R1 and L1 to free a pyramid from its snap points and get it perfectly aligned on top of the paver. After deleting the paver, I adjacency from a lab lamp to a light floor on the face of the pyramid with my cursor at the very top center. I then go green state a light floor above this one and adjacency to a light box. I then pull the light box up a couple more to get it out of the way and repeat the process with the other 3 sides. On the last side, instead of pulling the box out of the way, I run it down to the top of the cylinders and use total wire control to create a couple connection points like I had done on the main booster. After checking to see how the merge looks on the one side, I repeat that process on the other sides and then replace the pyramid and start glitching in single panels.
Once again, I had miscalculated. Fortunately, this was an easy fix. I simply changed from single to quad panel pavers, glitched onto the bottom point. They worked out great. Time for the other secondary booster. For this booster, bringing up frontages from the ground like I had done with the first proved tough to get aligned, so I had to change things up. I set up a series of connection points, a light box apart, and started seeing what spacing worked for the start of the secondary booster. First spot doesn't work. Fortunately, the second spot does work. I just had to move some cylinders temporarily out of the way. I end up building this one just like I did the one before. No need to rehash things. The roof I did slightly differently. This time I dropped the light boxes down instead of up. Saved me from having to bring them back down after I'd set all four sides. And that is the joy of scaffolding. You could pull stuff out and put it back later if you need to. Now, I realize that one wire is longer than the other three, but you've got to remember we're using the bottom point, not the top, so all of their bottom connection points are at the same spot. So we're good. It doesn't matter that the one has a top connector that's higher than everybody else. But that is the booster rockets for the Resurgence of Hope. So I hope you guys learned something, and tune back in a couple days for the next episode. Talk to y'all later.